Okay, so good morning. I would like you to open up to page 6 in your notes packet. You are going to be taking notes. So as I do this, you do this. Okay? And so we talked a little bit about long division yesterday, right? And if you read this question, it's asking you to determine whether or not x plus 2 is a factor of that polynomial function. So what you can do is, remember we did discuss this, that if x plus 2 divides into p of x evenly, meaning not having a remainder, then we know that it is a factor, okay? Or maybe we kind of haven't totally discussed that, but we know about how this may divide in evenly or it may divide in with a remainder. So what I want you to do is I want you to pause me, and I would like you to set this all up and then just do a long division problem, and let's just see what you get and then unpause and we'll get back to it, okay? So first, just don't forget to make sure that your polynomial is in standard form, meaning your highest power is first, and then we slowly work our way down one by one. Okay, if it's not, then you need to put it in standard form before you actually go ahead and start your long division. So remember, the first step is we're going to take our first term here, and we're going to figure out how many times it goes into our first term here. So what would I have to multiply x by to get to x to the fifth, which would be x to the fourth? Then from there, we're going to take our first term, multiply it by x, and we're going to multiply it by 2. Okay, so when I do that, I get x to the fifth and plus 2x to the fourth. Now, if you recall, then what we're supposed to do is we're going to subtract these bottom two from the top two. And so if I do x to the fifth minus x to the fifth, you should see I get 0. And if I do 2x to the fourth minus 2x to the fourth, you should see that I also get 0. So these guys are going to cancel out. I'm going to bring down my next term here. So negative 3x cubed. So now I'm going to start again. So I'm going to ask myself, what do I multiply x by? Always this first term. What do I multiply that by to get negative 3x to the third? So then I would say, well, it's got to be negative 3x squared. Okay, so I'm going to multiply this, negative 3x squared, by x, which is going to give me negative 3x cubed. And then remember, I also have to multiply this by the second term as well. Now I don't have another term here, so I'm going to bring this one down. Okay, so in this case, because these guys both canceled, usually then I would bring down 2. Okay, I didn't do it right away because I just wanted to kind of explain it to you. So I'm going to drop this guy down, and then again, I'm going to do negative 3x squared times 2. Okay, so negative 3x squared times 2 is negative 6x squared. And then just a reminder, we are going to subtract these two. Okay. So a negative 3 minus a negative 3, okay, better known as a plus, those will cancel out. And a negative minus another negative, again, these two negatives will cancel out. So we have similar to what we had on the last one, where these guys will be gone and these guys will be gone. Okay, so then what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring down the negative 6x, and I'm going to bring down the negative 12. Alrighty, last step. So I'm going to again go back to this first term and ask myself, what do I multiply this by to get to negative 6x? And you should see that that's going to be a negative 6. Then I'm going to multiply that negative 6 times the x, which is going to give me negative 6x. Then I'm going to multiply that negative 6 by the positive 2, and that's going to give me negative 12. Okay. Remember, we are going to subtract. And again, we're going to have the same issue that we've been having all along, which is wonderful. We have no remainder. Okay, so remember what I talked about. So if we have no remainder, then x plus 2 would be a factor of p of x because there's no remainder. So in other words, x plus 2 divides evenly into p of x, and that would be your answer. Okay, make sure that you were taking notes in your notes packet. Okay, now looking at number 11, I'd like you to do the same thing. Read the question, do exactly what we just did on number 10, pause the video, take good notes, and then we'll come back together when you're all done and you're ready to check, okay? All right, so just like the last one, I am going to see what I multiply x by to get to x cubed. And when I do that, I end up with x squared. Now remember, I'm going to distribute this x squared through to the x and to the 2. Okay, so x times x squared is x cubed, and then x squared times 2 is a positive 2x squared. Okay, so remember what you're really doing here is we are subtracting. I am going to do x cubed minus x cubed, which I know cancels out. All right, then the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to do 7 minus 2. And when I do 7 minus 2, I get 5x squared. And then I'm going to bring down the next term, which is 14x. Okay, let's repeat again. So x times what will give me 5x squared. And that's a positive 5x squared, so I'm going to have a plus 5x here. And again, I'm going to take this positive 5x, I'm going to distribute it through to this and to this by multiplying, okay? So 5x times x is 5x squared, and then 5x times 2 is a positive 10x. And then we are going to subtract. So 5x squared minus 5x squared is nothing. And then here I have 14x minus 10x. So 14x minus 10x is 4x. And then I'm going to bring down that next term again. And we're almost done. So I am going to multiply x by 4 so that I get 4x here. Okay, so I'm going to have a plus 4 up here. And again, as soon as we put something up here, remember we're multiplying that by both terms on the outside here so we can get what we need down here. All right, so 4 times x is 4x, and then I am going to multiply this 4 times that 2, and that gives me a positive 8. Okay. And remember, I am subtracting. So 4x minus 4x, I know, cancels out. And then just be a little careful here. I am doing 3 minus 8. You can do that in your calculator if you like. That will be a negative 5. Now, look very carefully because read the question, is x plus 2 a factor? So x plus 2 isn't a factor. Okay, and it isn't a factor of this polynomial because it doesn't divide evenly into the expression. Okay, we have a remainder here. And whenever you have a remainder, that means whatever factor we're referring to will not divide into this polynomial evenly. Okay? All right, so let's have you turn the page and let's look at number 12. So we're on page 7 now, and I would like you to do the same exact thing, okay? And you're going to do the same exact thing for number 13 as well. And then pause the video, do number 12 and 13, and then you can check back when you're done. All right, so I am going to see what I multiply 2x by to get to 2x cubed, and that's going to give me 2x squared. Then I'm going to distribute that 2x squared and multiply it by both terms right there out in front. Okay, so that is going to, ooh, I made a mistake. That's not 2x squared. That should just be x squared. I'm just going to make that disappear if that's all right with you guys. Okay. All right, so then that will give me 2x cubed and then plus 9x squared. All right, now remember that I am subtracting, so this is going to get subtracted, which means these guys will cancel out. And then when I do 13x squared minus 9x squared, I am going to get 4x squared. And then I'm going to bring down the next term. Alrighty? Okay, so now let's do that again. So now I'm doing 2x times what gives me 4x squared. So that should be a positive 2x. And remember, we take this 2x and multiply it by both terms right there. So that's going to give me 4x squared plus 18x. And then we are going to take these guys and subtract them, which will cancel this out. Just be a little careful here. 20x minus 18x. Okay, so 20 minus 18 we know is 2. Bring down the x, and then the plus 9. Okay, well, lastly, well, this one should hopefully be a little bit easy for you, because look, what do I multiply this by to get to this? Itself. So, I mean, itself meaning 1, I'm sorry. So we're just going to put a 1 here, and that gives me 2x plus 9. And then just remember, we are always going to subtract everything, and everything cancels out. So we have no remainder. So it says to determine whether 2x plus 9 is a factor of that polynomial, and yes, it is. And there would be your explanation. All right, so again, please make sure you're taking notes, and if you haven't already, pause me and do number 13 before you continue on with the video, okay? All right, so I'm stopping right here on 13 because I notice I'm missing an x term here, and I said that on the first question that we did, number 10 I think it was. So if that's the case, make sure you hold that place by writing a 0x. Okay, it's going to make your life so much easier when you're doing this long division. Okay, all right, so over here I'm going to get 3x squared, and that's going to give me 6x cubed plus, oops, that should be a 9x squared, right? And then I'm going to subtract. These guys will cancel out, and then with the other one I'm going to be doing 17 minus 9, which I know is 8. And then I'm going to bring down the 0x. So up here I'm going to multiply by 4x, and that is going to give me 8x squared plus 12x. Okay, and then I am going to subtract. So this is why we like to have this 0x here. So when I have this 12, I've got something up above it. So I have something that I can subtract it from, okay? All right, so 8x squared minus 8x squared disappears, and I know 0 minus 12. Think about what I just said. 0 minus a 12 is negative 12x, and let's bring down that negative 17. So lastly, here I'm going to have minus 6, which will give me negative 12x, and then minus 18. Okay. And then I am going to subtract. These guys will cancel out. Now, let me just point here for a minute. Negative 17, you can put this in your calculator, minus negative 18. Negative 17 minus negative 18. That's all you're putting in your calculator, exactly that. And that will end up with 1. So we have a remainder. And this will be your explanation. Okay, so 2x plus 3 is not going to be a factor of this 6x cubed plus 17x squared minus 17 because it doesn't divide evenly into the expression. Okay, so you can see we have a remainder left over. Okay, so please make sure you took notes in your notes packet for this. And just a reminder, what you should be working on now, if you have extra class time, is you're going to work on the Ed puzzle, which has to do with the remainder theorem. Okay, if you forgot, go on Google Classroom, look up the assignment calendar, it's all there.